I met Mark on a random Tuesday at this tiny second-hand bookstore that always smells like expired paper and burnt coffee. I wasn't even planning to go in. It was raining. I had time to kill before my bus, and I figured I'd just wander around. Inside for a few minutes. He was already there when I walked in, flipping through some old cookbook like he was actually going to make something from it. I only looked at it because it was sitting near a worn-out paperback I was picking up, and he looked up like I interrupted something important. He said something dry like good taste or something even more boring, but he smiled, and I stayed. That's how it started. Not some intense lightning bolt thing, just weird timing and shelves of books nobody really wanted. We started talking more after that. A week later we got coffee, which turned into dinner, which turned into hanging out, at his place more than mine. He had this tiny apartment with a weirdly quiet vibe. Not empty exactly, but kind of private. There wasn't much on the walls, barely any color, and no obvious signs of a roommate or a partner. Just his stuff. Simple, neutral. He didn't seem like someone trying to impress anybody, and maybe that's what made it easy to be around him. He was calm, like really calm. The kind of calm that makes you want to match it. I thought that meant he had his life together. It didn't cross my mind that maybe he was just hiding more than most people do. He told me early on he had a sister named Kara. She lived in the same building, apparently in another unit, but was always borrowing stuff, or crashing for laundry. I didn't really care. People have siblings. It wasn't that weird. I saw her once walking out as I was coming in. She didn't look surprised to see me, didn't even really react, just gave me this long glance and walked past. I thought she was shy, or rude. Didn't think much about it. I stayed over a lot. After a month or so, I had a toothbrush there, some hair ties, a hoodie I didn't feel like taking back. Nothing serious. His bathroom was always clean and minimal, so I kind of liked how my stuff stood out in it. Felt like I had a little space. He never complained about me leaving things, but they did start to go missing. Little things at first. My favorite cleanser. A pair of socks. A tank top I slept in. I figured I misplaced them, or maybe he tidied. Up too hard. I even asked him if Kara might have moved them or something, and he just kind of shrugged and said maybe. Still, I didn't think anything was seriously wrong. He was good at being normal. Really good. He made dinner from scratch most nights. He remembered what I liked, what I didn't. He didn't post on social media, didn't overshare, didn't do anything sketchy. And maybe that's why the whole thing caught me off guard. He wasn't the kind of guy you expect to lie, or be living double. The turning point came on a random weekend when I'd stayed over, and he had to leave early for work. I was supposed to go straight home, but I had a headache and decided to nap a little longer. When I finally got up, I went, looking for coffee. He kept the French press under the sink. I opened the wrong cabinet. There was a hair straightener, a makeup bag, and boots that were definitely not mine. I just stared at it all for a while, like I was trying to come up with another explanation. Maybe he was helping Kara move. Maybe she stored her stuff here. But there was way too much of it. There were tampons under the sink, shampoo that wasn't his brand, and a drawer in the nightstand that I'd never opened that had birth control pills in it. Not mine. I waited. I didn't text him or say anything right away. I needed to figure out if I was just overreacting. I didn't want to be that girl who jumped to conclusions, but the more I thought about it, the less it made sense. I borrowed my friend's laptop later that day and looked up Kara. I'd never thought to before. She had an Instagram. It was private, but her profile photo showed her and Mark. They looked close, too close, like you don't hug your brother like that. So I dug deeper. My friend followed her, and after a bit she let me use her account to check out the posts. And there it was, a picture of them in front of a beach house. 3 weeks ago. 5 years together and still making it work. The comments were full of heart emojis and people saying stuff like my favorite couple and you two are goals. I didn't cry right away. I didn't scream or throw things. I just kind of sat on the floor in my friend's living room and stared at the screen. It wasn't even like finding out someone cheated. It was more like realizing you were never even in the relationship you thought you were in. Like someone handed you a script and you followed it, and then you found out it was a prank show the whole time. I went back to his place once more. I still had the key. He was at work. I packed up everything of mine I could find and left the key on the kitchen table. I didn't leave a note. I didn't block him either. I didn't even want the satisfaction of confrontation. I just dipped. He never called, never texted, never asked what happened. Like he already knew, that's what stuck with me. Not the lying, not even the fact that I was the side project. It was how easy it was for him to erase me, like he had a process, a system, like I was one of many. It's not something I really talk about now unless someone asks why I'm weird about dating. I don't get emotional about it anymore. But sometimes when I'm at someone's apartment for the first time, I'll check their cabinets. Not because I don't trust them, but because I can't not look now. Like some part of me is waiting to find the same straightener or boots or bag and think, yep, it's happening again. I don't think about Mark often, but when I do, it's not about how he hurt me. It's how easy it was for him to fake everything so well. And how long it took me to realize that just because someone's calm doesn't mean they're safe. I matched with Emily on Bumble during a week where everything already felt kind of sideways. Work was dragging, I wasn't sleeping great, and I figured a random date might give my brain something else to do. Her profile was pretty standard. Nothing over the top, but her photos weren't super filtered. And she had this one where she was holding a dog with a huge tongue. And I don't even like dogs that much, but the picture made me stop scrolling. We started talking, and the vibe was easy. She was quick with replies, knew how to keep the convo going without turning it into an interview. And we were laughing about dumb stuff within a few hours. She asked to meet in person pretty fast, which I liked because I get bored when people want to chat for 2 weeks before even meeting up. We met at this cafe downtown that I honestly don't even like that much, but it was halfway between both of us. She looked exactly like her photos, which was already a win, and she was even more relaxed in person. Funny too, like sarcastic but not mean. She told me she didn't want anything serious, made it really clear from the start. Said she'd just gotten out of something and didn't want to get attached. I told her that was fine. I wasn't in some rush to meet the one or whatever. It felt like we were both on the same page. The thing is, we kept hanging out. More than people usually do when they're trying to keep things casual. Dinners, movie nights. She even came with me to a friend's party once. And I started to notice stuff that felt not casual. Like she remembered tiny things I said in passing, brought me snacks I mentioned once, asked me questions about my family. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it started feeling like she was invested in something deeper than what she'd originally claimed. Still, she'd repeat that she didn't want anything serious any time I leaned in too close. It was like she had to remind herself. I didn't push it. I told myself to chill and just enjoy it for what it was. Then, this one night, she invited me over to her place for the first time. She'd always made excuses before. Her apartment was small or messy, or her roommate was annoying. But that night she said her roommate was out of town and she'd cook. I got there and yeah, her place was cozy. Small, but not a mess like she made it sound. There were toys in the corner of the living room, like actual kid toys. I noticed them right away, but I didn't say anything. Just looked at her and raised an eyebrow. She shrugged and said they were her nephews. We ate pasta, drank a little wine, watched a movie. Everything was normal. She didn't seem nervous, but I couldn't stop looking at those toys. Something about the way they were just there, not tucked away or anything, didn't sit right. A few days later, I got curious and did what I'm not proud of. I looked her up. Her last name was on her mailbox and I remembered it. I didn't think I'd find much, but I did. Her Facebook had a bunch of old posts from a couple years ago, and in one of them she was pregnant, like visibly pregnant, smiling. The caption said something cheesy about new chapters. There were other posts, ones with a baby, people, saying he looks just like you and asking how she was doing. I scrolled and couldn't find a single mention of a breakup or divorce or anything. Just silence after that first birthday. I didn't know what to do with that information. I waited a few days and brought it up in the least confrontational way I could. I asked her straight up if she had a kid. She went quiet and then nodded. She told me he was 3 and he lived with her part-time. She said she hadn't mentioned him because she didn't want to bring a stranger into her son's life, which, honestly, I understood. But I also felt weird. Not just because she'd hidden something that big, but because of what came next. She admitted that she was trying to make her ex jealous. Apparently, the guy had stopped sending money and had been acting cold ever since he found out she was talking to other people. She said showing him she was dating again, moving on, made him nervous, made him show up more. That if he thought she was serious with someone new, he'd start being more involved. So I asked her if I was just part of that. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. Just said she liked being with me and hoped I didn't hate her. The thing is, I didn't hate her. I wasn't even mad at her in that moment. I was just confused. Like I was suddenly in the middle of a story I didn't sign up for. It made me look back at every moment with her differently. The times she asked for photos of us together. The time she asked if I could come with her to this school fundraiser thing she ended up backing out of. At first, I thought she just changed her mind. But now I think she wanted her ex to think we were together, even if it wasn't real to her. I didn't cut her off that night. We talked more. We even hung out again after that. But something shifted. I couldn't relax around her anymore. I kept wondering if every little thing we did was being watched by someone else, if she was using me like a piece in her game. And maybe that sounds dramatic, but it started to mess with my head. Eventually, I just stopped replying. I didn't ghost her. I told her I couldn't keep going with something that felt half real. She said she understood, but I could tell she was hurt, and I hated that I cared. Now, I think about her sometimes, not in a I want her back way, more in a what was that all about way. She wasn't evil or anything, just someone trying to survive in a way that made sense to her, even if it meant pulling someone else in without their permission. I still see her profile pop up now and then when I re-download the apps. Same dog photo, same bio. And I wonder if she ever tells the next person about her kid, or if they have to find out the same way I did, through toys in the corner and old Facebook posts that don't match the story. It started with a message from a guy named Jason that didn't seem like anything special. His profile was decent, kind of plain, but he had this one photo where he was standing on a boat in a hoodie, holding a coffee like it was freezing and windy, and he didn't care. Something about that picture felt real. No filters, no fake smile, just a guy existing. We talked for a bit, mostly short texts at first. He had a slow way of answering, but never disappeared for too long. I liked that. We didn't waste time with small talk either. After a few days, he asked to meet. We went to this local sushi spot near my campus. I'd never been there before. It was tucked behind a vape shop and had these ugly green chairs that didn't match the rest of the decor, but the food ended up being surprisingly good. Jason showed up wearing a black jacket that looked expensive but wasn't flashy. He had this calm, observant energy, the kind of guy who doesn't talk unless he has something to say, and when he does talk, you listen. The first few dates were chill. Coffee runs, late-night drives, cooking pasta at his place while listening to playlists that were way better than mine. He wasn't overly flirty. He didn't push for anything fast. I liked how comfortable it felt being around him. There wasn't pressure, no games. I thought maybe I'd finally found someone who didn't have a bunch of weirdness hiding underneath the surface. For once, things felt easy. The fourth time we hung out, we ended up talking about our families. I told him about my brother, my mom's awful cooking, how my dad used to leave random notes in our lunchboxes. He just listened and smiled. When I asked about his family, he kind of hesitated and said he didn't really keep in touch with them much anymore. He changed the subject after that, and I didn't press. Everything started unraveling about a month in. It wasn't dramatic. There wasn't one big moment. It was slow and weird. First, a friend of mine brought him up randomly. She'd seen us together at a coffee shop and said he looked familiar. She asked if his name was Jason. I said yeah, and she gave me this look. Not judgmental, just confused. She asked if he went to Lincoln High. I said I didn't know. She didn't say much after that, but she definitely recognized him. That night I asked him about it. He laughed and said yeah, he went to Lincoln, but that was ages ago. I didn't think much of it after that, until I told my sister about him. She got weirdly quiet. And I don't mean normal sister teasing kind of quiet. I mean quiet, like I had just told her something serious, and she didn't know how to react. She looked at me like I'd handed her something sharp. She asked to see a photo. I showed her one we took at the lake. She stared at it too long. Then she told me something I wasn't even remotely ready for. She dated him, years ago. She was 18. He was 24. I froze. I didn't understand. I asked if she was sure. She said yeah, absolutely sure. His hair was shorter then, and he didn't have the same beard, but it was him. She said they were together for about 4 months, maybe 5. She didn't talk about it much back then. Just said it ended badly and she didn't want to see him again. I asked her what happened. She wouldn't tell me everything, but she said he made her feel special in a way that didn't feel right once. She had space to look back on it. She said he was good at knowing what to say, at first, and then he started twisting things, making her feel guilty for texting friends, saying her clothes were too revealing, being cold one second and overly affectionate the next. She said it messed with her head. She'd never even told our parents. I didn't know what to do. My brain kept trying to make it make sense. Maybe he didn't realize I was her sister. Maybe it had been so long he'd forgotten her name. But that didn't feel right. He remembered things too well. There's no way he didn't know. Our last name isn't common, and we look alike. Same eyes, same laugh. I told her I'd talk to him. The next day I met him at his place like usual. He made tea, he kissed my forehead. Everything felt normal, which only made it worse. I sat on the edge of his couch while he talked about some documentary he watched. I wasn't even listening. My head was buzzing. Eventually I just blurted it out. I asked if he remembered my sister. I said her name out loud, and his face didn't change, not even a flicker. He just nodded and said, "Yeah, I know who she is." That's it. No explanation, no apology. He just sat there like I'd asked him if he remembered a restaurant we went to. I asked him why he never said anything. He said it didn't matter anymore, that it was in the past. I asked if he knew I was her sister when we met. He said yes. That broke something in me, because I kept thinking about that first night at the sushi place, about how easy everything felt, and now it felt like every second of it had been a setup, like he'd seen me, remembered her, and decided this would be some kind of do-over, or maybe revenge, or maybe he just liked playing games with people who didn't know the full story. I left without saying anything else. He didn't try to stop me. Just closed the door behind me like we were done with a normal conversation. I didn't tell my sister right away. I didn't know how. I felt stupid, angry, gross, like I'd walked straight into something that had already happened before and didn't notice until it was too late. It's been months since then. I haven't seen him, haven't talked to him, but every once in a while I wonder how many other girls he's done this to, how many other sisters or friends or roommates he's circled back to without blinking. I wonder if it was about control, or if he genuinely didn't think what he did mattered. I don't even think I was the point. I think he just wanted to see if he could still pull the strings, and for a while he did. I met Claire through one of those apps I only download when I'm bored, and then delete 3 days later, after realizing everyone on there either sells crystals or has 6 pictures of their dog, but none of their face. Her profile didn't stand out much at first, but she messaged me first, and it was something about the hoodie I was wearing in one of my photos. She said I looked like someone who eats cereal at night, and I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. We ended up talking for hours, and she was quick, funny, the kind of girl who could make ordering a sandwich sound interesting. I liked that she didn't take things too seriously. She didn't give off any try-hard energy, and that was rare. First date was at this bar that had fake plants hanging from the ceiling and drinks with names that sounded like indie bands. She ordered some cocktail with rosemary in it and barely touched it. But she talked the entire time, and I didn't mind. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room, even when she was half distracted. She'd bounce between stories and you'd forget what the original question was, but somehow everything felt connected. That's how it started. Easy. Light. The thing about Claire is she liked being treated like royalty, but in a way that made it feel like a joke. She'd call me sir when I opened doors for her, asked me to pick her up instead of Ubering, said she couldn't possibly eat somewhere with paper menus, but she said it all with a smirk, like she was half mocking herself, and I went along with it because it was fun. She wasn't stuck up, just high effort in a way that made you want to match her energy. And yeah, I started spending more. Dinners turned into weekend getaways. I'd find myself buying concert tickets, new clothes, even random stuff she mentioned in passing. She once said she missed this pastry from a bakery 2 hours away, and I actually drove there to get it. At the time, it felt romantic, like I was stepping up. I figured maybe she dated guys before who didn't treat her well, and I was just being different. That's how I justified it when I checked my credit card and realized I was almost maxed out. I didn't blame her. I blamed myself. Told myself I needed to budget better. But there was this one night that shifted everything. We were supposed to go to this rooftop event her friend was throwing. It got cancelled last minute because of the rain, so we stayed in. I cooked, she brought wine. While I was doing the dishes, her phone lit up on the counter. Not a big deal normally, but the name that popped up was Husband. I laughed at first, thought it was a joke, like a nickname for a close friend. But she went completely still. Didn't laugh, didn't even reach for the phone. I asked her if she was married. She didn't answer. Just said, "It's complicated." That's when my stomach dropped. She told me they were separated but not officially. Said they were technically married on paper, but hadn't lived together for months. Said he was manipulative and she was just trying to get away slowly. I wanted to believe her. But then I started thinking about all the random stuff that hadn't added up. The way she always Venmo requested exact amounts for small things, like gas or parking. The way she never wanted to FaceTime at night. The way she always avoided talking about her past, said it was too boring or messy. She admitted something else that night. Said her husband didn't know she was dating, and that she hadn't told him because she was trying to get more out of the divorce. She said if he thought she'd moved on, he'd pull the plug and stop paying for certain things. At first I didn't even get what she meant. Then she said it straight. He was still covering her rent, her car, even some of her bills, and if he thought she was seeing someone, it would all end. That's when I realized I wasn't dating Claire. I was basically her cover story. She'd been using me to make it look like she was thriving, posting little hints online, tagging places I took her, taking pictures of the flowers I bought her without ever tagging me. I was her pretend life. Her version of look at me now without risking the benefits she still had from the life she said she left. I asked her if she even liked me. She said she did, said I was refreshing and safe. But it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like I was a step down from the chaos she was running from. Something clean and easy to show off without any risk. She told me she never expected to like me, and that made it worse because that meant she'd started this knowing it was a game. After that night, I didn't see her again. I didn't make a scene, didn't text some dramatic goodbye. I just backed off. Quietly, she didn't reach out either. I think she knew I figured it all out. 2 weeks later, I got a fraud alert on my credit card. Turns out one of the online shops I used to buy her a necklace got hacked. Not her fault, but still. Felt symbolic somehow, like even after she was gone, something was still reaching into my wallet. I see her sometimes on social media. Not directly. Friends of friends. She's still posting like she's in a movie. Cappuccinos with perfect foam, sunsets from fancy rooftops, captions about healing and energy. No sign of the husband. No sign of me either. Like I never existed. What stuck with me wasn't the money, or even the lies. It was how smooth it all was. How she made everything feel like I was choosing it. Like every swipe of my card, every trip, every gift. I thought I was doing something good. Thought I was helping someone rebuild their life. But she never wanted to be saved. She just wanted to look like she'd already made it out. And I was the guy in the background helping her hold up the set. Tyler was the kind of guy who came off a little too perfect at first, which is usually a red flag. But I was in this phase where I kept telling myself not to be so cynical. He had this really put-together vibe. Clean jeans, good shoes. Didn't say LOL after everything he texted. Our first date was at this retro bowling alley that had a bar with arcade games in the back. He beat me at every game but didn't brag about it, and he offered to walk me to my car afterward, without acting like it earned him anything. That stuff adds up. Especially when you've dealt with guys who think paying for your drink means you owe them your weekend. He told me early on that he was a teacher. High school English. I actually thought that was kind of charming. Said he liked helping kids who hated reading figure out that not all books were boring. I pictured him the way you picture teachers in movies, leaning against a desk, sleeves rolled up, explaining poetry to some kid who didn't care. It made me see him as patient, emotionally available, all those buzzwords people throw around when they talk about good guys. He talked a lot about his students, but in a way that wasn't name-dropping. It felt like he cared, like he wasn't just in it for the paycheck. The weird part was that we never went to his place, not once. He always came to mine or suggested places to meet. He said his apartment was small and kind of a mess, and he didn't want me to think he was gross. I didn't push it. Some people are private. And honestly, I liked hosting. My place is cleaner, quieter, and I had snacks. Things moved fast in a casual way. He started leaving stuff at my apartment. A hoodie, a toothbrush, a book he said he wanted me to read. He'd text me good morning almost every day and called me after school when he was driving home. He'd vent about co-workers, about kids who wouldn't listen, about how the system made it hard to actually help anyone. And I listened. I felt like I was part of his world, like I knew what kind of man he was beyond the surface. But there were small cracks that started showing after about a month. He'd cancel last minute more than once and say it was work stuff. Once he bailed on dinner because he said he had to handle something with a student and couldn't talk about it. I tried to be understanding. Teachers deal with stuff all the time that doesn't fit into normal hours. But it started happening a lot. One afternoon I was out with a couple of friends from college I hadn't seen in a while. We were just hanging out, walking around, grabbing coffee, nothing special. I mentioned Tyler in passing. One of them, Jess, asked if he taught at West Side High. I said yeah, and her face did this thing where it went blank too fast. I knew that. Look. It's the look people make when they know something and aren't sure if they should say it. I asked what was up. She said her cousin went to that school, a junior. And apparently there had been rumors about a teacher there who got suspended the year before for something sketchy. Jess didn't know his name, just that it involved a student and some texts that went around. She didn't want to accuse anyone, but my stomach dropped anyway. Later that night I asked him directly. I didn't even try to ease into it. I just told him what I heard and waited. He paused for too long and then said, "Yeah, that was me." He said it like it wasn't a big deal. Said nothing actually happened, it was all misinterpreted. He said some girl had a crush on him, and when he didn't play along, she got mad and made it into something it wasn't. He said the texts were harmless, that it was a joke that got taken the wrong way. I remember just sitting there and staring at him, trying to figure out what kind of person I was even looking at. He told me he'd been suspended for 2 weeks, but they let him come back. Said it wasn't that serious, or else he wouldn't still be teaching. And the worst part is I almost believed him, because that's what people like him are good at, making you doubt yourself, making you think you're being dramatic or overthinking. But the way he brushed it off didn't sit right. If it was a misunderstanding, why wasn't he upset when I brought it up? Why wasn't he angry that someone accused him of something so damaging? Why didn't he try to prove he wasn't that guy? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I looked it up that night. I didn't expect to find much, but there was a thread on a local forum. Not super detailed, but it mentioned a teacher at West Side High who got in trouble for sending inappropriate messages to students on Instagram. No names, no solid proof, but it lined up with what Jess said, and it lined up with Tyler's. Weird vagueness. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I packed up all the stuff he left at my place and put it in a bag. When he texted to ask what I was doing that day, I told him we needed to talk. He didn't ask why, just said okay and showed up an hour later like nothing was wrong. I handed him the bag and told him I didn't want to see him anymore. He asked if it was about the rumor. I said yes. He didn't argue, just said I figured. That was it. He walked away like we were ending a casual fling, not like I'd just found out he'd been suspended for messaging a teenager. I don't know what the full story is. Maybe he was telling the truth, and it really was some dumb misunderstanding, or maybe it wasn't. But the part that messed me up the most was how normal he seemed, how safe he made me feel, how easily I could have missed it if one of my friends hadn't said something. It made me realize how much someone can hide behind their job, behind a smile, behind the kind of personality that gets you invited to barbecues and parent-teacher nights. You think being a teacher makes someone trustworthy, but a title doesn't mean anything. People like Tyler know that. They count on. So now when someone tells me what they do, I don't assume anything. I listen closer. I ask more questions. Not because I want to catch them lying, but because I've seen how much damage a good story can cover up. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed. It really helps us grow this new channel. Thanks for listening in. Now, fall asleep or relax to the calming rain sounds.